Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast, on which we're going to be looking ahead to that clash at the AMEX this evening. The Gunners travelling down to the south coast to take on Fabian Hurzeler's side, hoping to close the gap on Liverpool ahead of their game against Manchester United on Sunday to just 3 points. Now, I'm not saying that, we should look at it that way in the sort of grand scheme of things and in the bigger picture, because of course Liverpool will have 2 games in hand, but psychologically to close the gap to 3 points, I think could be quite big. I think it adds a pressure on Liverpool, and I know they've got a game against a really poor and troubled Manchester United side that I'm expecting them to walk away with, by the way. But we did hear some interesting comments, didn't we, from Mohamed Salah on Friday afternoon. I was live on TalkSport 2 at the time, and we saw on the TV in front of us, where we had, of course, Sky Sports News on, that he was giving an interview. And we thought this has got to be something quite significant, actually, for Sky to be sort of really building up this interview. So they dropped the interview, and Mo Salah basically said it was his last season at the club. He said that they're nowhere near coming to any sort of agreement, and that he'd love to win the Premier League in his final season with Liverpool and all the rest of it, because they didn't get to celebrate the previous one that he did win, because, of course, it was during the pandemic, it was during COVID and all the rest of it. Look, as an Arsenal fan, I would love to sit here and say to you that the contract issue with Mo Salah and the way that that's rumbling on, and there's clearly a bit of friction between Mo Salah and the club. He's never spoken as much as he has of late. So he clearly wants to put his message out. He clearly wants to make it, I think, known to the Liverpool supporters that it's not him that this rests on. This is Liverpool Football Club probably not being willing to get anywhere near what he believes is a decent sort of contract offer. And it's going to cause division, certainly among the fans. There'll be some fans that say for the club to be run properly, they cannot just throw 3-4 year contracts at a player who's at Mo Salah's age, even though his performances on the pitch are outstanding. And there'll be others who say that the guy's got godlike status at Liverpool Football Club and you should just give him whatever he wants because he's proving week after week that he can still do it. The thing is, when you offer a contract, you're not just thinking about the here and now, you're thinking about the longer term. And that's obviously what Liverpool are doing here. But to let him go on a free, to let Trent Alexander-Arnold go on a free, which looks like it's probably going to happen as well, that is going to anger the Liverpool fans. And as the season goes on and there's no resolution when it comes to those two players and their contracts, is that kind of division in the stands going to spill onto the pitch? Is it going to impact the atmosphere? Is it just going to take a little something away from Liverpool in the title race? From an Arsenal point of view, I bloody hope so. But we'll have to wait and see how all of that develops. But with all that going on, if we can cut the gap to 3 points, and again, I know they'll have 2 games in hand, but they still got to go and win them, then, psychologically, things could be impacted. Somebody asked a question on Friday's episode in the comment section. They said, a few weeks ago, you said we were out of the title race. Nothing's really changed in terms of our position, yet now you're talking like we're in the title race. Well, I guess, strictly speaking, that's kind of true. But my stance was always that we were out of it. And that was a temporary status. Like I always said that, yes, at the time of recording those episodes, we were out of it because I was really worried about where the team was at. I looked at the gap between ourselves and Liverpool. And yeah, I was concerned about our chances. I still am concerned about our chances, but because I've seen Arsenal improve a bit and because I feel a little bit more confident about where Arsenal are at than I did maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and certainly after that Newcastle United away game, I feel like the door is open for us. The question is, can we squeeze in it before it slams shut? And that's the big question. And that question isn't going to be answered overnight. This is going to be an ongoing thing. We need to stay in touch. We need to be within a sort of catchable distance of Liverpool. And that's really, really important. And if we can maintain that, maybe take, I think I said previously that if by the end of February we could take 4 points out of their lead, then I'd be looking at the last sort of couple of months and thinking, yeah, we could do this. Last 2-3 months of the season and thinking, yeah, let's put our foot down, let's accelerate. Because for all the talk about Liverpool being excellent, and they have been, and us not being so good, we're still there having been quite bad. I don't feel like Liverpool's level can get any higher than this. And so the law of averages says that they are going to, at some point, probably suffer a little bit of a decline. Whether it's a big enough decline for us to take advantage of, I don't know. But given that we've not been anywhere near our brilliant best, I've still got faith, especially with what we've seen in recent weeks, that we can, we can up it a level ourselves and put a run together that would see us get back in the race. Anyway, we are here to talk about the Brighton game, and we will get onto that very, very shortly. But I do just want to quickly address another point that was made on the podcast on Friday. So we talked about a story that was doing the rounds. It came from Team News and Ticks, and it was Arsenal are close to agreeing personal terms with an unnamed player. And I said that I wasn't really having that because it didn't give me any information. It's easy to say that when you're talking about an unnamed player. I've since learned, and I don't know if that was put out originally or if the further information came out later on, but I stand corrected. The player that was being talked about, even though it was initially put forward as an unnamed player, was Matheus Cunha. So, fine, you're going to give me a name? Cool. Then I can take the story seriously. Now I can start to try and break it down. Now I can start to process it. But it just contradicts everything else that's being reported at this moment in time. Look, I'm not saying one person's right and the other one's wrong. I just think that in this January window, this is what we're going to get, right? One person says it's on, one person says it's off. Who are you going to believe? And we're going to have loads of that now because people feed off of this frenzy and this desperation within the Arsenal fan base to get players in, that they can dangle these things out, get mega engagement, and then the story can go away and their defense will always be, well, I thought it was, it looked like it was happening, but something went wrong or something broke down. And you or me, we'd never know. We just never know. So yeah, Matheus Cunha was the player, was the unnamed player. It's since come to light. But again, does this make an awful lot of sense? Like, if Matheus Cunha was in a place where Arsenal had come and said, look, we'd love you to join our club in January. We'd love you to come in. Then would he be in negotiations with Wolverhampton Wanderers? And the answer to that is no. Like, I've had mixed responses to my sort of X post in which I said that. And people are coming back at me and saying, well, yeah, because he's using Arsenal to get a better contract and all the rest of it. Hold on a minute. You're either wanting to move to Arsenal, in which case signing a new contract with Wolves makes it harder for you to get out, because the longer there is left to run on your contract, the higher the price they're going to ask for you, and the less likely Arsenal are to go that extra mile and make it happen. It's simple. There's no two ways about this. If Matheus Cunha wants to get out of Wolves, the last thing he's going to do is sign a contract extension with them. If Matheus Cunha has no intention of joining Arsenal, but they're using some very sort of minimal interest as a way of getting Wolves to give him a new contract and a new improved contract on better terms at a time where his status in the team is obviously improved and he's obviously viewed as one of their most important players, then fine. But that means Arsenal's interest isn't serious. So it can't be both. And I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong over the course of the month. I'm sure we're going to find out. But it's being very widely reported this evening, and I'm recording this on Friday night, that he is close to agreeing a new contract with Wolves. Now, if Arsenal were seriously in for Matheus Cunha, I can promise you he would not be doing that. He'd be making his chances of joining Arsenal far less than they were prior, because Arsenal would then have to pay more. They ain't going to do that. I've said it over and over again. I don't think they're going to spend a hell of a lot of money in January. I don't think anybody's going to spend mega amounts of money in January. And some of Mikel Arteta's comments pre-Brighton, where he says that the options are a lot more limited in January. And I'm not saying that Mikel Arteta gives things away, and I'm sure that they're looking to do some business. I'm sure they're active behind the scenes. But I think he's trying to manage expectations a little bit. I think he's trying to put that message out there, because there seems to be this opinion that Arsenal can go out this month and go and get an Alexander Isak or a Matheus Cunha. And that just doesn't feel very likely at this stage of the window. Now, maybe things will change. I think the Bukayo Saka injury has added to people's sort of thirst for this, but I just don't see it happening. On the question of the game against Brighton and Hove Albion, because This is a really significant fixture for the reasons I've mentioned. It's a game away from home, difficult place to go. I did want to kind of just reel off some of the facts around this one. Head-to-head, Arsenal undefeated in their last 4 visits to Brighton, winning 3 and drawing 1. Brighton have won 3 of the last 7 meetings in all competitions, although each of those wins have come at the Emirates Stadium. So this is a team that traditionally we need to worry about when we're playing them at home, more so than when we're playing them away. But I wouldn't take this one for granted. Brighton have drawn 5 of their last 7 league matches, including the last 3. So wins are not coming easy for Fabian Hurzeler's side at the moment. They are struggling to get those wins on the board, and hopefully they don't put that right tomorrow. Hopefully we can, we can go on and we can take 3 points to heap that bit of pressure on Liverpool right at the top of the division. Who starts for Arsenal at Brighton? That's a really, really interesting question. We know that Jurrien Timber is suspended. We've been told that neither Ben White nor Takehiro Tomiyasu are close enough to be in contention for this one. Ben White still a few weeks away. Takehiro Tomiyasu, again, Arsenal very, very vague on what the prognosis is with him. We have no idea how long he's going to be out for. And the fact that he's out, the fact that White's out, the fact that Timber is now suspended has prompted questions around whether or not Arsenal should be looking to bring in an emergency right-back option. I think Arsenal can probably make do for now. I don't think if I were in charge of the club's transfer strategy, I'd be looking at that. Partey can fill in there as he has done on many occasions. Timber will return after 1 game out. And then you're hoping that Ben White's not a million miles away. You're hoping that Tomiyasu is not a million miles away, although on that one, I wouldn't hold my breath. But the big question, I guess, in terms of the team selection is, does Thomas Partey go in at right back to replace the suspended Jurrien Timber? And I've sort of sat there and racked my brain and tried to come up with different solutions, because in an ideal world, I don't like Thomas Partey playing at right back. I think he did a very admirable job there against Liverpool at home in the league. I think he's done a solid job in certain other fixtures, but it's not something I feel very comfortable with, particularly when we play away from home. So I was trying to find alternatives, trying to find a different way to set up the defense that doesn't involve Thomas Partey tucking in at right back, but I just can't see one. With the personnel that we have available, based on what we know at the time of recording, I think he has to play right back. So my team to face Brighton this evening is Raya in goal. I'm going to go Partey at right back, Saliba and Gabriel as the 2 centre halves, with Calafiori at left back. And then in the midfield, I'll bring Declan Rice back into the starting 11. He can sit at the base of the midfield with Mikel Merino to his left, Martin Odegaard to his right. I would actually go with this in the forward line, and this might be somewhat controversial. I would start Kai Havertz through the middle. I would play Gabriel Martinelli on the right flank, and I would use Gabriel Jesus on the left flank. Now, that means there's no Leandro Trossard. I feel like Jesus is in such a rich vein of form that you need to play him. You need to continue to extract that out of him while it's there. And I think Martinelli is a real threat down the right. So that's the way I'd go in the front line. I want to get Kai Havertz back in the side. I think he's important in away games. He gives us a direct route if we want to go over the top of the block. He can also drop into those slightly deeper positions and bring us a bit of a creative spark in a midfield that, without having that ball progressor from deep, maybe we'll lack that. Rice and Merino together, it's not the ideal balance for me. I personally don't think anyway. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Mikel Arteta gave a press conference earlier today, and he said that he expects Kai Havertz to be back. There aren't any other outstanding injury issues at the moment. He did make those comments about the transfer window, which have sparked a lot of debate, a lot of questions. Interestingly, if you're wanting to have a little bet on this game, and I'm not sponsored by a betting company or anything like that, so please don't take it this way, but I was looking through some statistics around this game a little bit earlier on when I was doing my radio show, and one of the things that really jumped out at me is that in 15 of Brighton's 19 league games this season, the both teams to score thing has won. So if you were looking to put a little bit of money on the game, if you are looking for an angle, Brighton have been involved where both teams have scored in 15 of their 19 games. So that's quite telling. It kind of gives you an indication with regards to what kind of match I think to expect at the AMEX on Saturday evening. So, yeah, questions around Brighton are always going to be there, because I think Brighton as a football club have sort of grown really quickly, progressed really quickly. And as a result of that, the expectation around them now is much bigger. So people are looking at them and saying, well, they're having a little bit of an underwhelming season. That's because Roberto De Zerbi took them to heights that nobody ever foresaw when it came to that football club. They've done really well in terms of selling players over the years. They've done really well in terms of generating a profit. But has that caught up with them a little bit? Perhaps. Perhaps. Are they as good as they were under Roberto De Zerbi? I think they're as intense. I think they're as aggressive, because I think that's Fabian Hurzeler's way. But do I think they've got as much quality nowadays? And the answer is probably no. I don't fear Brighton, but obviously they are a team that, particularly at the Emirates, have been a bit of a bogey team for us. I hope that Arsenal channel what happened at the Emirates earlier in the season, the injustice that we all felt after dropping a couple of points against them. I hope we channel that in the right way and use it to our advantage. It's a big, big game for all the reasons we've discussed. I'll just repeat my 11 once again before I give you a prediction. I'd go Raya in goal, Partey at right back, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafiori across the back. Rice, Odegaard and Marino would be my midfield trio, with Martinelli and Jesus playing either side of Kai Havertz, who I'd bring into the starting 11. You could put Trossard there. You could put Martinelli on the left and put Jesus on the right. You could play Ethan Nwaneri. Like, Ethan Nwaneri has got a great shout to be in the team, but I just think away from home, I want something a little bit different. Martinelli on the right really thrives for me. I think it can work. I think it's a really, really good solution. And Jesus, as I say, is in such a rich vein of form. I want him playing. And I also want Kai Havertz in that centre forward role because of what he offers us physically. And I think that's necessary in an away game more so than a home game. And I know people would have made the argument that we were fine at Brentford, but we were without Havertz because he couldn't play. So it's very, very different. I'm sure if he was available, he would have started in that game. So it's unfortunate for Nwaneri. It's probably a little bit unlucky for Miles Lewis-Skelly as well, but Calafiori's come back in and done fine. And will, be our left back in away games. I'm almost certain of that, just sort of generally speaking. Partey will have to tuck in at right back to cover that issue. And I'm quite confident that Arsenal go to the AMEX and do the business. So my prediction is going to be Brighton 1, Arsenal 3. Let me know yours in the chat. Let me know your thoughts on the Matheus Cunha stuff. Let me know your thoughts on the Mo Salah comments. Do you think that they are going to affect Liverpool in an adverse way? We're going to see, aren't we? We'd like to think so as Arsenal fans. Time will tell. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe, all the rest of it. If you want to check us out on Patreon and you want match day reactions straight after the full-time whistle, well, I say straight after, within an hour of the full-time whistle, then go over to patreon.com/Chronicles AFC, sign up. And of course, I'll remind you guys that this podcast is brought to you by the good people over at NordVPN. We're partnered with NordVPN. It's the best VPN service out there. It's a service that I personally can't do without anymore. Whether you're looking to stream your favorite Christmas films or all the football, NordVPN is the one for you. It is a game changer. You can sign up via the link in the description. Visit nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC for a mega discount and 4 months free at the end of your plan. Not only does it give me extra protection when surfing the web, downloading or streaming, but I now have the ability to access geo-blocked content by changing my location virtually with the click of a button. Sign up now via nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC and take advantage of this amazing offer. Plus, with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, it's totally risk-free. You won't regret it. nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC. We thank them for their support of the show. And I will see you all after the trip to the AMEX. Fingers crossed we're discussing another Arsenal win. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good day.